Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast, wherever you are in the world. I have Renee Puvvada, and she has sold over 10,000 books. And she's going to teach the audience and the listeners and the viewers how to sell 10,000 books in a year without social media. So I'm really excited to hear more about that, and I'm really excited to welcome her to the show. So, Renee, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Excited to talk to your listeners.
Yeah. And briefly chronicle your journey, and I'm really excited to dive into the conversation.
Yeah, in 2020, when COVID hit, some people started baking sourdough, some people took up yoga. I started publishing books or audiobooks online. And your listeners might get a kick out of this because when I first started, I had actually started the process of FIRE not too long ago. I had fallen in love with the philosophy and I was down the Mr. Money Mustache rabbit hole for several months before that. And it was hooked. I was biking to work all the time. It was so much fun. And I was like, this is slow. I kind of want to speed this up. So I was like, okay, let's start making some money online. And so started publishing audiobooks online and I was like, okay, this is no sweat. I'm going to make $10,000 a month in 6 months. And in 6 months I've accelerated this process. I'm going to retire to a beach in Thailand, no problem. And fast forward maybe 4 years, I was not on a beach in Thailand. I was still stuck in my room. I did not know what I was doing, where I was going. Everything was not working. And I'm imagining any entrepreneur who's really had that dream of success when you're like in the hole and you're like, where did I go wrong? What did I do? I've spent $20,000 on learning how to do this and it's still not nearly what I thought it was going to be. But I learned a lot through mistakes. And fast forward, published a book that has gone to sell over 15,000 copies. It sold over $120,000 from just one book. And I later learned that this is like in the top 1%. And now I help other coaches and business owners sell their books. So it's ton of fun. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, interesting. And I love how so just talk about mastering the Amazon algorithm to sell 10,000 plus books in a year without social media.
Yeah. So when I got started doing this, which was you can imagine, I have no social media. In fact, I actually hated social media at the time. I still have a ton of resistance around it, of course, as we all do. But no way was I ever going to show my face on Instagram. No way was I going to show my face on Facebook hawking my wares. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to figure out how to do this without social media. And luckily, the courses that I joined showed you how to do it without social media. And they showed you that Amazon has an algorithm just like any other social media platform. And the algorithm is most active in the first 30 days after you publish. And so, what you want to do is you want to prime the pump with all your traffic. So, if you have, for example, I started a Facebook group, but at the same time, I was still so scared to I use the word hawk my wares, but yes, it felt like I was in this Facebook group and I was talking about my book. I felt so uncomfortable that instead of posting about my book on the Facebook groups, what I did was I used other Facebook groups to share free copies of the book. And when the book finally went out on Amazon, I reached out to these people on these Facebook groups that I had DM'd personally. So instead of that like traditional social media experience where you're like make one post and it goes out to your 20,000 Facebook fans, I instead did more of a one-on-one DM style and was like, hey, I would really appreciate it if you come to review my book. And so Amazon really loves in the first 30 days, it really loves sales and it really loves reviews. And so I got 100 reviews in the first 10 days, and Amazon ate it up, took my book and shared it to 2,000 other people, and it got 2,000 downloads in the first 30 days, which then resulted one thing after another. Before you know it, people are asking me to be on their podcast. People are asking me to go to Hawaii. And I'm like, what on earth? What is this? This is so unusual. And apparently, this is what business owners actually try to do, but I had done accidentally.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I know there's a And it's really interesting how you came about that. And talk about the 5 mistakes six-figure online entrepreneurs make when they publish their book that Robert Kiyosaki learned the hard way.
Yeah. So I absolutely love talking about Robert Kiyosaki. I think a lot of people, first of all, because he's a controversial figure, that's why I love talking about him. But also, too, was that my entrepreneurship journey really started when I was 24 and my dad gave a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad to both myself and my sister. And I read that book in 2 days. And I think that's actually what, interestingly enough, my brain then went down the Mr. Money Mustache rabbit hole, but that's okay. But the idea was that once I sold all those copies of that book and people were coming to me and asking me to speak on stages and get on their podcast, I was like scratching my head because what I had realized was that I had actually done what Robert Kiyosaki had done, which was the guy I was trying to emulate the whole time, which was use my book as a brochure to for my brand. Now I wasn't intentionally at the time trying to build a brand from that book, but I was like realizing that all the steps that I had done were what Robert Kiyosaki had to learn the hard way. And I went down the research rabbit hole of what he had done in the first place. And so if we could talk about some of the mistakes he made, and these mistakes are they're not bad. They're all mistakes that we all make as entrepreneurs. But one is that when he first wrote his book, he had actually done it because his cash flow board game wasn't selling. And he didn't necessarily know how to sell it. So he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad to be able to sell it. And then when it came time to actually sell the book, to sell the game, he couldn't even sell the book. So he's like, what now do I do? So he wrote the book and tried to find the market afterwards. And what I would recommend you doing as an entrepreneur is actually find the market and understand their needs, understand how they're not being served, and then reverse engineer the book that is 10 times better than any other thing that's on the marketplace right now. And I was watching this reel from Sarah Blakely last night, and she was saying how she invented sneaks, those high-heeled sneakers, and she was saying how one of the biggest reasons she did this was because she knew with confidence that she could invent something 10 times better than anything else that existed on the market right now. So if you have confidence to do that, I do recommend doing that. The second thing is setting up your Amazon listing as your Amazon profile, so to speak, where you have this awesome display page with your sales description, your title, your subtitle, your cover, and you have all these reviews. The thing is, it seems so obvious, but I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't necessarily take advantage of all the real estate that's on your Amazon profile. And so with the modern age, and everything's basically digital marketing, all the traffic you're sending to your Amazon listing had better be ready to convert and for people to say click add to cart. And we can go on and on about this, but we don't have a ton of time, and we can learn more about this if we go to the link in the show notes after this.
Interesting. And then the next question I have for you is, so then you've built Substack, and now you actually on a mission to help more successful experts and entrepreneurs in health and conscious leadership to scale their businesses with their book. Talk about you have a marketing masterclass that can help people write their book and sell their book and double their business in the next 12 months.
Yeah, straight to the plug. Yeah, so the idea was that when I was first starting this brand, Smoking Hot Books, I had no leads, I had no email address, and so I was like, how do I start to attract an email list? And started putting together some webinars for some of the entrepreneur groups I was in. And that led to this realization that I had basically broken down my process to sell 10,000 plus books in year one into 5 steps. And so basically I designed it, engineered it so that you could go from complete zero to selling over 6 figures in books if you wanted to. And the idea is that anyone who subscribes to the Substack can get not just a free copy of the 6 figure master book sales masterclass, but there's also, you can get the free copy of the book launch timeline that I use for every single one of my clients. So that's my free gift to anyone who subscribes.
And what is it about Substack? Why did you decide to build a profile on Substack?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I think I'm I think like any entrepreneur, sometimes you just want to make bets that some people are like, and when some people are TikTok is where it's at now, or Instagram's where it's at, but because they say that, I'm willing to make the bet that Substack is going to be where it's at in 2 to 3 years, actually. It's been a really awesome platform because just yesterday I did a Substack live, and I could automatically send the recording to every single person on my email list through Substack, and there were 181 views from my Substack live, and there were 17 people on it live, but then almost 200 people watched it afterwards. On Instagram live, I do not get numbers like that whatsoever. So that was
Mhm.
really exciting, and I'm willing to make that bet.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for undiscovered, uncharted territories where people are. But it's interesting, and because you've built a community, and you can also do subscriptions as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we have one thing is talking about is when it comes to when it comes to learning online business, what's the most unexpected thing you've come across?
The most unexpected thing I've come across. Okay, so I think this is for someone who is like a veteran to entrepreneurship, they're gonna be like, "Of course." But when I first bought my course like these courses online, I was like, "I got it in the bag. I know exactly what I need to do. I'm gonna," like I was saying, I was gonna retire to the beach in Thailand. But turns out that every single one of these people in that course had the exact same thought. And when you're first learning about entrepreneurship and about money and about the way that business is done, and it's really more about the route that's uncharted more than the route that is charted. As to be a successful entrepreneur, in order to make waves, you have to find the blue ocean. And that means taking a risk to go swim out to sea. You might be exhausted, you might be tired, and there might not be krill in this blue ocean, but you have to make that bet or else so what I realized or what I found out was that even though my book sold over 15,000 copies, that book immediately was followed by tons of copycats on Amazon, and I didn't wanna build a brand, I didn't want to build a brand around that book, and so, it was either build a personal brand or die, and I chose the latter. Still things are happening with that, but embracing uncertainty has become the new normal, for better for worse.
Yeah, interesting. And what I think is really interesting is you stumbled across how to market your book. What's the one thing you wish you knew before for people that want to write their book and they're like and get your wisdom and experience? What's that thing you wish you knew before writing your first book?
Yeah, so, this goes back to not even realizing what a successful book can do for you in the best way, right? Chris, you have a book and you probably wrote it for a specific reason. Tell me specifically why you wrote your book.
Actually, I actually wrote my book to one is first is for diversify my income streams, and
Hmm,
two was actually to actually share just more of this like creative because I've always wanted to write a book. I've always wanted to like
mm,
produce a movie and
mm,
think so I
mm.
wanted to go through that process. And in three was actually just to because people were coming to me with the same questions.
Yeah.
And so I was saying the same thing over and over. So if I put it in a book format where people could go and see it and it was much easier. But like talking to you and talking to a lot of like really successful people that had successful book launches, I'm like, I did it the wrong way because all I did was I wrote it and I got it out there. I didn't market it the correct way. But that's looking back, I wish I had done it differently. But yeah. So what about
Yeah.
you?
Career, I feel like that's extremely common. I feel like especially for a lot of self-starters, and that's what entrepreneurship is. It's self-starting. You don't know what you don't know, and so you're just taking action and things that happen, dents are being made in the universe, and then you're realizing, "Oh, I probably could have marketed a different way." But totally. So it's almost like two sides of the coin. Like you have this business and you also have a book. And that book and the success of that book can lead to the success of your business. But I had this other side of the coin where the point of me selling this book was to make income from the book sales only. And when I sold the heck out of it because I wanted the money, and I was thinking, well, if I can just sell that many copies, then I'll be squared away, not realizing that it would lead to this expansion that I was not ready for. And so I remember so clearly, like I was in Hawaii because so Hawaii is the one of the biggest source places where rainwater is collected as a household water source. And that was what my book was about. But I was there with some people who had invited me there, but I was feeling so out of integrity because I had sold all these copies of a book. And I wish, Chris, that I had sold a book that led straight to a business. I was aligned with my personal brand and what I stood for and my mission, but I hadn't. And if only I could have designed and engineered a book that was on brand, that could have been part of a bigger ecosystem online, that was part of my larger business, I would have felt more aligned, but I hadn't. And the wisdom I have from personal experience because of being so out of integrity for so long was if I could do it all over again, it would have been just think about how this book, because it inevitably will grow your business if you sell enough copies. Think about how it leads someone who wants to work with you more deeply and pay you more, how you can do that and lead them through that customer journey.
Yeah, because I've talked to people from FinCon and from Podfest and just other creators, and like that one book is their major work. That's like
Mm.
the major driver of sales. For me, it's the podcast that's really the major driver, and the books are just very ancillary. But it's yeah, it's very interesting. Like where that one book is like that's their thing. But
Yeah, you never know because you're right. Like podcasts and books have they have that similar effect where someone who doesn't know anything about you, like your piece of work, it's a long form piece of content that can be distributed widely forever and come before you. I guess there is that benefit of a book that you don't need it's not electronic, you don't have to have a technology with you, you can take it on vacation. So people, when they want to focus and want to dive deep into something, they're more willing to do it with a book. And so it seems like I think the data says that your readers are going to be your most qualified, most engaged, most interested leads more
mm,
than anything else. Yeah.
interesting. And then final words of inspiration, how has spirituality played a part in your role as an entrepreneur? And then where can people find you and learn from you and check out your book and learn how to market their book or write their first book?
Okay, spirituality, yeah. I think it's funny because the more people I talk to, the more I think people are diving into the abundance agenda, as it says. But when I was first publishing my book and it hadn't been published yet, I was just writing it. And at that point, I had been writing it, doing illustrations for it, doing research for it, doing DM conversations with people for it for 8 months. And I was in this Facebook group, and other people in the course were like $14,000 this month and $20,000 this month. And it put so much anxiety on me that I had
Mm,
to leave that Facebook group and just focus on me. And I just realized how attached I had subscribed my story of freedom
mm,
with this income level, or even just this book, or even just online business in general. And I was like, if only I can just get to this level of income, I could be free. If only I can just publish this book, I can be free. Meaning that my brain always thought that freedom was over there and never here. Right. And so there's no way that I didn't know that's how the brain worked at the time. But realizing looking back now is like, oh, I get it. It's because I've ascribed something valuable to me way over there. So it can never be here. And oh my gosh, like I had to dive into the world of spirituality really because of on a personal level, because it becomes a matter of survival at a certain point, right? Like you're like, what this anxiety isn't going to win. I'm going to win, so I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I went down the rabbit hole of spirituality to realize that my freedom is not in my retirement account, it's not in my portfolio, it's not in my online income, it's not even on a beach in Thailand. It's in here. And that's why I value it so much because I am a free person. And it's taken so much work to realize that. But ever since then, ever since I had that realization, spirituality has been such a huge part of now myself and my new brand, Smoking Hot Books. And ever since I was felt so out of integrity with that rainwater book, I vowed, even though if it feels scary, I vowed that any brand I create from now and into the future would be a reflection of me, even if it feels absolutely terrifying. So yeah, Smoking Hot Books is a marketing business, but it's also a very spiritual business, and that's super fun. I've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and I love that. And for the audience, the listeners, the viewers, you can check out Renee's Substack, Smoking Hot Books, and check out her books on it'll be in Amazon. And thanks so much for a really great conversation.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it.